You're listening to Talk Star Wars, a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth podcast network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Talk Star Wars is a production of Emotionally 14. For fantastic podcasts, video series, blog posts, and much more, visit us on the web at emotionally14.com and enjoy content for the permanently teenaged. Hello there, and welcome to Talk Star Wars, episode 184 from Emotionally14.com. I'm your host, Rob Wade, and I'm joined, as always, by the Chewie to my Han, the Chewie to my Lando, and the Chewie to my Porg. Brad Harmer Barnes, hello.
It's true, I'm the Thok to your whore. How are you doing?
I did consider leading with that, but I thought he will, so I don't need to worry about it.
Of course. Well,
yeah.
All the
cause, yeah.
All the cause.
It's a
sure.
weird tick you have.
Yeah, remember the cause, kids?
Yeah, how are things?
Yeah, I'm good. I've just been reminded that Andrea Core was a thing, so that's brightened my day ever so slightly.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, Jim had his moments.
Yeah. In a different way, yeah.
Sure.
Okay. We're recording nearly an hour later than usual, so we're already into the weird period, I think, mentally.
Oh, yours is timed. All right.
No,
mine just is when it is.
Yeah. This is me reining myself in.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, within reason, feel free to express yourself.
Okay.
How are you feeling? Because I saw on Twitter that you were injured in the weirdest way.
I was sort of injured. I took a swig of drink, not realising that there was a wasp inside it, and I got assaulted internally.
So this is a new thing for me, because I've only ever seen, the most I've seen with regards to drinks and pack-in stuff is like codes for energy drink stuff. Like you get like in-game items and stuff. This is a new... It was a bold, weird promotion.
And all it was is I'd left my tin out for a bit, was about to start clearing up and realised there was a bit left in it. So I thought I'll just put that down before I throw it away. And then I felt there was something in my mouth, and my first instinct was, someone put a fag out in this? Is that a fag butt? And I spat something out, and then I could feel it moving and assaulting me, and I was like, no, this is a bit more serious than that. And then I hopped him out.
This is a vaping machine.
Yeah, but it was awful. First of all, I was out in the boondocks, and it was the first time I'd ever been stung by a wasp. So I was kind of thinking, if I'm allergic, there's seriously a very good chance this is how I die.
Yeah, well, quite.
Yeah, shortly followed by my tongue swelled up a bit, but I was watching out for any early warning signs of anaphylaxis. The first 2 lines already dialed, all this stuff you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It was about half hour gone by, and I thought, well, I'm not dead, so I'm probably not allergic.
Yeah, fair.
It's a reasonable assumption. Yeah, but it was like the next day, it was awful because all my teeth and jaw started aching as well, and I don't know if that was for the venom or because my tongue was swollen and I was holding my jaw different from normal, maybe. So just a bit of muscle fatigue. But yeah, no, it wasn't the most fun I've ever had.
No, it's fair. I mean, as you know, Tuesdays go, it's probably not up there.
No. Probably one of the worst, I'd say, actually.
I think that's fair. I can
be honest, I don't really rank my Tuesdays. Maybe I should.
Maybe you should.
Can you give me a spreadsheet?
I can knock together something crude.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah? It'll just have just have loads of curse words in it.
Yeah.
Well, how's your week in Star Wars been? Have you had anything Star Wars?
Week in Star Wars, down a couple of comics, watched a bit of Clone Wars, because I've just reached for Clone Wars on my timeline crawl. I need to watch the animated movie next.
Okay. The two-part Tartovsky one?
No, the full-length one.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The one.
So the Tartovsky one is lovely, but it's not canon anymore.
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because it is good.
Yeah, I'm rewatching, because there's actually 2 episodes that take place chronologically before the film, so I've done those. And yet, Ventress doesn't get an intro. She just turns up, and Anakin and Obi-Wan recognise her now.
Hello.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose maybe at the time, they were relying on recognition from the Tartovsky one, but obviously now, like
it must have been, it needs readdressing.
Yeah, indeed.
I think. because she's a great character. They obviously, after the canon was reset, they gave we could do spoilers. They finished off her story effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice to go back and give some kind of genesis rather than something that's buried inside a Star Wars Insider article, because I think those are flaky at best.
Do you think Jedi Lost does enough?
Jedi Lost.
Yeah.
Little, but I'm more curious about younger Ventress, I guess, or more importantly, her first encounter with Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they just recognise her.
Oh, hello. Hello there.
Ventress. Yeah,
hello.
It's like she's a Saturday morning villain of the week. It's just for instant recognition, and there's no real context as to why.
Right.
Read a couple of comics as well. Been reading the main series. Been doing Dr. Aphra. I read the first issue of Vader Dark Visions.
Which one's that one? It's the one that's a bit surrealist and a bit fantastical, isn't it?
It's got quite a fantastical. It's almost like Frank Frazetta Deathbringer on the cover with a horseback Vader with a shield.
Oh yeah, that's the
crest.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the cover was intentionally obtuse because as a self-contained story, those bits are in it, but they do make sense within the Star Wars universe. It's just come on Marvel Unlimited this week, so I'll avoid spoilers. But yeah, it's I think it was a bit of it's a brilliant image. It's a wonderfully, as you say, fantastical image, but I think it kind of rubbed people up the wrong way. They're like, well, why are they doing that? Is it just a bit weird? And like we've said before about a lot of Star Wars marketing, it was kind of intentionally misleading.
Yeah, which, it's a way of doing it.
It is, and it's not the first comic to do stuff like that.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I've been going on a first issue. I think the series is going to be self-contained stories in each issue.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's Vader's Dark Visions, I guess. So
yeah,
it was Dennis Hopeless is a really good dark side writer.
Did you say Dennis Hopeless?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
He's
okay. It's interesting.
It's a pen that he's.
Yeah,
he wrote some stuff under Dennis something else with the nickname Hopeless in quotation marks.
Right, and then
after a while he just started crediting himself as Dennis Hopeless.
Gotcha. Yeah. Dennis the Optimist Hopeless.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not up on the Star Wars comics much. I've read a few of the Age of Republic individual tie-in ones they did, like
I've done a few of those.
Yeah, I thought they were okay. I quite enjoyed them. But
I look forward to the Grievous one turning up on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah,
Grievous anyway.
I've had the opportunity to pick it up, but I've not really partaken as much as I should, just because I tend to wait for the Comixology stuff to go 69p an issue, because obviously that's a nice way of doing it because it's way cheaper.
Yeah, totally fair.
And I pick up way more. I can pick up 2, maybe even 3 comics for the money I'd spend on a single issue. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, I do the Marvel Unlimited thing because I'm a Marvel fan.
Yeah,
as well. But the monthly subscription for Marvel Unlimited is what I'd be paying out in Star Wars comics, and then I figure I get Marvel Run in the archive for free.
Yeah,
so that's why I go that way. And I pick up DC stuff.
Yeah,
regularly.
Fair enough.
And some indie stuff.
Yeah.
As much as I should.
Not been on the indie stuff as much as I have in the past recently. I think that's just because there's not really been anything that's grabbed me. But there are things where I'm kind of like, I probably could read that. And I'll probably be quite happy to, happily do so, but just never get around to it. And again, it's like, if something's not discounted, I'm a bit of a sucker for reduced price comics. To the point of buying some stuff I would normally not really give much of a.
Well, sometimes they're so cheap it's just worth taking a punt on them, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if I've had it recommended to me by somebody,
Oh, you were reading the Stranger Things comics, weren't you?
Yeah, they were pretty good.
That's indie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I suppose so. I think they were. Where were they from? IDW, maybe. I don't know, but they were pretty good. I thought I enjoyed those, and I've read both. I think there are two. There are 2 series. I know that one is about Will Byers through the events of the first series.
Oh yeah, you mentioned
and that's
that
really good. And then there's one called 6, which is about another person in the lab.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, but and again, that's pretty cool. Right.
You're going to get on Dead by Daylight now?
Dead by Daylight. I do keep meaning to because I have Xbox Game Pass and it's on there.
Okay,
and I have PlayStation Plus. It's on there too.
PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, I have it there too.
I don't think it's expensive to buy the starter pack for anyway. I think it's It's probably about 15 quid.
I think that sounds about right from what I remember. Yeah.
It's it's playing. I generally like playing as a monster stroke killer more than playing as a survivor because it's just really stress relieving.
Yeah, you would probably enjoy. I played this. It got a bit of a slating at the time, and not undeservedly, because technically it was a little bit on the shoddy side. But I remember this game called Naughty Bear. And it was basically just like a Friday the 13th style stalker thing, but you played as you played as Teddy Bear hunting down the island. Basically, the story was that all the teddy bears on the island had a party, except you weren't invited because you're a naughty bear, and your solution is to murder them all.
Brilliant.
And it's all psychological tricks and scares and stealth attacks and things like that. And I think you would dig it.
There's a Dead by Daylight pack I need to get. Because you get so many free guys and you can buy extra ones or you can buy packs of survivors and skins and killers and stuff. Yeah. And there's one they did where the backdrop is very, very obviously the Insane Asylum from Until Dawn.
Okay.
Which is easily one of my favourite games.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah, in fact, I'd probably play video games more if every 40 minutes Peter Storm me berated me.
That is fair. I mean, to be honest, that would certainly do it for me as well. I think I'd make way more time for games I already do.
Yeah. People didn't come here to talk about.
No, I was about to bring us back in by saying that I did a Star Wars thing this week.
Oh, well, what's your Star Wars thing this week?
I appeared on.
I did a podcast.
I did. I appeared on the podcast. I was on. Yeah, I know. But aside from this one,
okay.
I appeared on as a guest on Cloud Car Co-Pilot, which is the Star Wars musings of Neil Lowry, who long-term listeners will no doubt be familiar with. He is a force of positivity, and he is recognised as such by the Commonwealth. And he was kind enough to invite me on to have a little chat about Star Wars. And I tell you what, right? I've guested on a few podcasts, which means you kind of get almost the interview treatment in a bit of a weird way, especially if it's the first time you've been on. And he threw me some genuinely baffling questions, in the nicest possible way. It's just some questions that I genuinely had no idea how to answer.
What would you rather have, new socks or French mustard?
Well, it depends. Do I have a sandwich? Because if I don't have a sandwich, then obviously the mustard. But, nothing says, as the saying goes, the only thing that can improve a sandwich is socks.
So you've got some interesting questions. I'll have to listen to his show.
I'd say it'd be well worth giving it a go because obviously it's Neil, and everybody loves Neil.
Yeah.
He just, I was expecting. He said I'd got some. He warned me up front. I've got some questions to sort of throw at you, and I haven't heard all the episodes, so I didn't know if there was like a theme. And he just threw me some really genuinely. I really had to think. And
what was the name of the show for people like me who are slow to catch up on this?
It's called Cloud Car Co-Pilot.
Oh, yeah, found it.
Found it?
Cool.
Picture of a cloud car.
There you are on Spotify. Yeah,
it is Spotify,
cool. I'm sure that can be my listening tomorrow.
Lovely. It's about just under an hour, and I would heartily recommend anybody who's interested in Talk Star Wars and or me to give it a go, and obviously give Neil some love because he does. But he gives plenty of love to the Star Wars community.
Yeah. And you have fans?
Yeah, I think. Fans plural. Yes, I think that's fair to say. Probably at least a few dozen. I think it's
someone.
Yeah, there you go. I appreciate that. It's nice.
I think so.
I also started because for various reasons, none of which are very interesting. I found myself with nothing to do today except use my iPod, and my iPod is loaded with Star Wars things.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm about halfway through my I want to say my third or fourth viewing ever of The Last Jedi.
Oh, okay.
I thought I'd give it another go. I suspect I wasn't in the mood to watch it because I was, I was about halfway through, and I felt more into it in the afternoon than in the morning. In the morning, I was a little bit grumpy, but I don't think it was necessarily down to the film.
That'd be a lot to lay on it.
Could have been a factor, but not. Not the entire. I don't think it's the entire. I think the blame can be squarely placed at the foot of the film. It was just one of those mornings where I just could have done with not. That's it. Just not.
Yeah.
Just no.
I get it.
I don't want to. Anyway, that's been my Star Wars week. So on a Star Wars podcast as a guest, which is nice because way less editing on my part.
Yeah.
And I got to learn about some new tech because he was using an app I've never used before. It was cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I might have to tinker with it in some capacity for myself.
Oh, no. I played Legion the other day as well. That was filming for following release. So that'll be on Emotionally 14 in a couple of weeks, probably.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you also published this week the Superstar Destroyer gameplay, right?
Superstar Destroyer gameplay. Yes, of course. Yeah, my brain kind of goes, okay, that's done with, and I'm just focused on the editing of this one now. Yes. But yes, that's for people who actually follow us. Then that's the most recent episode.
Oh, there you go.
Getting a lot of positive feedback on YouTube and Board Game Geek already. So it's
nice.
It's nice because we're mostly Legion.
Yep.
To do Armada, we don't get the view counts we do for Armada because not everyone plays both systems, and Armada has always had more of a cult following.
Okay.
Anyway, so to get any kind of positive feedback's really nice.
Sorry, cult or occult?
Definitely cult for this one, I think. I don't think there's many. Maybe some of the dark side players.
Yeah, fair. Just checking. I just want to make sure we're precise.
Dark side players sounds like a mime troupe.
It does a bit, yeah. The dark side players. You'll laugh, you'll cry, but they'll do none of that. They'll go through the motions, but that's about it. So, our first message this week comes from Vesuvi.
We got messages.
We do. We have, yes. I should have just said yes, rather than go through all these verbs. It comes from Vesuvi, who writes, "Thanks, Rob. Hoping the soreness in your finger subsides quickly." It did, thank you. I think it was about 2 days before I was back to normal. Yeah. Which I suppose is quickly in some respects, but maybe not. Yeah. Your mileage may vary. Yeah. Thanks, Brad.
Who gives a crap about your fingers?
She doesn't know about your wasp thing, so I'm sure next week we'll hear about your wasp thing. Yeah. Right? She's not psychic. We've done the tests. It's a tad off topic, but loosely connected, as Ewan McGregor is involved.
That is tangential.
I'm curious what you thought of the final Doctor Sleep trailer. # ghost travel via halitosis. That's good to know.
Yeah. Are we doing... we're not going to make this a thing, are we? We'll cover a trailer thing, someone who's ever been in a... Because that's going to...
That is a slippery slope to start walking on. No, this is purely just a one-time thing, I think.
I watched the trailer because Vesuvi told me about it. I hadn't seen it. I wasn't against seeing it, just hadn't caught it before now.
Yeah.
I was intrigued because obviously Stephen King wrote the book Doctor Sleep as a sequel to The Shining 50 years after the first book had come out.
Sure.
But the novel of The Shining and Stanley Kubrick's movie version of The Shining are very different in a lot of ways, both in terms of
media
and in terms of subtext.
Okay.
I guess there's a lot of themes and stuff written in the book which aren't in the movie and vice versa, which is great. Stanley Kubrick did a good thing in making it a good Stanley Kubrick movie rather than and yet another dodgy Stephen King adaptation, of which there are hundreds.
There are 6.
Yeah. So when they announced they're doing this, I was wondering how they were going to do it, whether they were going to do it as an adaptation of the novel, or if they were going to go down the route it appears they've gone down and make it a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what intrigued me. And I liked there was enough references and callbacks to The Shining, but also enough there to establish it's going to be its own story as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a kind of a light touch of callbacks, a bit like Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. That sort of level of that sort of level of acknowledgement without being a straight. It's not a reboot. It's not a remake. It's going to be its own thing, but with enough visual nods to the originals that you can come in as a fan of the original and sort of go, oh, there's stuff for me here too.
Yeah.
Which
you're a fan of the original?
Not a massive fan. I mean, I like it. It's one of those movies I'm not convinced I've ever seen all the way through.
Okay.
But I think what's happened is, much like so many movies that kind of permeate popular culture, I think I've seen all the bits spoofed by other things, like The Simpsons. It's
one of those really great horror movies that has been completely ruined by Simpsons Treehouse of Horror.
Yes, indeed. There are quite a few of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that I've had a lot of movies not spoiled for me, because obviously they're doing the same story, but they're doing it in a completely different way. It's hard to kind of draw like-for-like comparisons. But I do sometimes feel like movies, I've not seen them, and yet I could tell you all the beats.
Yeah.
Which is a bit weird. And it's not unique to Simpsons either. It's, I've had, the one I always tell people is I've watched all of Pulp Fiction from start to finish, but I've never sat and watched it in a complete loop.
To be honest, if there's any film you're going to do that
exactly. It's the one where you can just about get away with it because there's no, there's congruity to it, but there's no, it's not like a really vital story thread.
Interlinked short stories.
You can't do that with Memento, for example. It's harder.
No, that's harder.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you can do it the other way around. Who knows? I've not tried. But I don't tend to go, once I've seen a movie, I don't tend to go and watch it backwards. It's just me. I'm weird that way.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Jedi Last or Clones of the Attack.
Sounds like something Tool fans will be telling you to do with a new album.
Yeah, Clones of the Attack.
Yeah.
Clones the Attack.
If you sync it up with Lateralis, actually.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I noted. Thanks.
Yeah.
Cool. Groovy. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Please leave.
But I'm intrigued by it. I like Ewan McGregor anyway. So
yeah, I'm a fan.
And as he could be a good Danny, I think. So intrigued. Yeah, I guess.
I think I hadn't seen it. I was I hadn't seen the trailer before Vesuvi recommended it. I have to say, what I really liked about it was it didn't do what a lot of the horror movies do, which seems to just, let off its proverbial silly string in the trailer. And then when you go, it's all kind of dead space. I much really like Dead Space.
I liked it because it was a trailer that didn't open up with a solo piano note, which is really setting my teeth on edge now.
There's a, have you seen the trailer? I think Oral Nauts are the ones who made it, but it's basically just a spoof of every movie trailer, and it opens with a single piano note.
Of course it does.
Yeah. I'll send I'm going to, as I'm saying this, I'm going to actually have a look for it and send you a link for later.
Okay.
Because it's so good. And I'm pretty sure it's Oral Nauts.
That bloody piano note is in every trailer is driving me spare.
Yeah.
And it is just so lazy.
I think it's just, I'm surprised.
If it's that or a slowed down, goffed up cover of an 80s pop song, then it starts to wind me up.
Oh, you're going to love this video. You're going to love this video.
I look forward to this.
It's incredible. Especially given the two things you've just said. This is going to be so good. Don't watch it right now. Because, we're mid.
Yeah, we're being professionals.
We are in verbal orbit. Vesuvi continues. Also, have you seen this lovely image of Cal Kestis and BD1 in the temple corridor attached? So I've attached it.
I have not.
Persistently, Vesuvi, Knight of the Commonwealth.
She is persistent.
Yes. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So one of the things I haven't...
Even pasted into a Word document, it still looks good.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I like to think it retains some of the visual fidelity, maybe not all. But I think that's sufficient, to be honest.
It does look good.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, it does seem to have been a bit quiet still on the Fallen Order front. Now, I know what you're thinking. A Star Wars thing? Gone quiet? Imagine that. But it's true. But I do maintain a lot of optimism about this game. It does look
basically
very,
looks like
very
Uncharted
cool.
Star Wars. I'm all over it.
Which is great, right? Because Uncharted's awesome. Star Wars is awesome. Yeah, exactly. What's not to like? Right?
Yeah, totally.
And it's single player. I don't know if there's. I don't believe there's anything about multiplayer in it. I would imagine not, because even though Uncharted 2 had some, I don't think Uncharted 1 did anyway. So even if they did a Fallen Order 2, maybe that might have some deathmatch or something. Or maybe, more likely 99 versus 1 mode, because, that's the thing now. And everybody seems to think that, the Battle Royale mode is the...
is that what that is?
Yeah, everybody seems to think they can do it better than Tetris, and I just feel like saying, no, you're wrong. Nobody has done it better than Tetris. Tetris 99 is superlative.
Okay.
But, yeah, I'm now, at the moment, that's the current multiplayer mode, is 99 versus 1. Unless a game series already has a multiplayer mode it's already known for. So like Gears of War has Horde mode, and Gears 5 has just come out, I think, this week. And it's, replete with multiplayer things, including but not limited to a Horde mode, I think. It's my understanding. I need to play that at some point. I love those games. They are cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm looking forward immensely to Fallen Order, and I will probably. It's probably going to be one of those rare games that I'm going to pick up on day one. I haven't been doing that I haven't done that in some time for a game, but Fallen Order might have to be it because, let's be fair, I'm going to play it straight away.
Yeah.
So normally with games, it goes up on the shelf and then sits there for a little while on my pile of shame. But this one is, I think, is going to buck the trend because, Star Wars. Yeah. And, maybe there's some way to make it available. Like my gameplay or a review or whatever. So I'll figure something out.
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah. I'll figure something out. I mean, ultimately, the release date does kind of fall around the time of a really important date in my calendar. So,
Well, we'll be able to get Blake to do a Let's Play then, won't we?
Oh, that'll be fun. Trying to convince him.
Yeah.
Yeah, not so much the actual. I mean, if he did it, it'd be great, but it's just the convincing him is always the fun part.
Yeah.
So, Vesuvi, thank you very much for sending over the trailer and the image. Both of which I have, used and made good use of and enjoyed. So again, thank you very much for that. Mm-hmm. So our next message comes from Michael.
Hello, Michael.
Michael writes, "G'day, Rob. G'day, Brad.
G'day, Michael.
Thank you to all previous hosts of the show. Host ghosts? I'm going to try and make false hosts a thing.
Oh, that's really false host.
I think we should try and make false hosts a thing.
Yeah, all right.
Maybe I can knock up some sort of artwork.
It's everyone who's been on the show previously, just tint them blue.
Exactly. Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
This is my second message. Whatever.
To anyone?
I've changed my approach to listening to the latest episode and then in breaks returning to the back catalogue.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, all right.
The combination of speculating what The Rise of Skywalker will bring us and post-Force Awakens excitement is thoroughly enjoyable.
Oh.
If there are any new to Talk Star Wars listeners like myself, the experience of diving back into the early podcasts at a time when Episode 7 dropped brings back all the fond memories of December 2015 when we leapt back into the Star Wars movie universe. I can't recommend it enough. Oh. Well, that's lovely. I mean, I'm always going to encourage things that result in people downloading more episodes of Talk Star Wars.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm never going to have a problem with this.
I wouldn't go further back when I joined, but...
No, I know you wouldn't. That's fair. But you must have done, because you knew the show, so... I don't believe you.
I listened to the show before I joined.
Yeah,
that's how I knew who you were.
I know you did, really.
Yeah.
It's all good fun. Thank you for taking my question regarding the reconstruction of movie titles to form your own new Star Wars stories. Who wouldn't want to see or read The Return of the Sith Clones? I mean, it was my idea, so I'd totally read it.
I think you'll find it's called The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, it could well be. Who knows at this point?
Yeah.
I've always been a fan of the original Mos Eisley Cantina walkthrough. Fans get their first glimpse into a much larger and diverse universe. The scene sparks our imagination through the magnificent talents of the many design artists, sculptors, actors, and contributors aligned with George's vision. Mm-hmm. My question this week, if you so choose to use it for discussion, Michael, one, we'd always do that. And two, have you seen how much news is coming out of Star Wars? Of course we're going to.
Yeah.
If you can inject yourself into any past Star Wars scene as an extra, which scene would you like to be in and why? Your role would be a brand new character, one scene only, with no consequential significance to the story. AKA, you couldn't go back and be Boba Fett, but you could be an alien standing behind Boba Fett at Jabba's palace.
Dream big.
I personally couldn't give up the opportunity to be one of the extras in the Mos Eisley Cantina, causally downing a cold one when the way too overprotective Obi-Wan slices off poor Ponda Barber's arm. All the best, Michael from Sydney. Sorry, that wasn't one complete sentence. I've just realised. All the best, Michael from Sydney. I'm not throwing shade on all the other Michaels, and I am capable of forming grammatically correct sentences, I promise.
I kind of wish I could hear Blake's answer to this one. He probably wanted to be one of the fleet troopers in the Rogue One corridor scene, because at least you get to meet Darth Vader.
I've been sitting trying to work it out, right? I don't think I'd go down the route of Mos Eisley. I'd be more inclined to think I'd want to be something kind of cool. You know, like a swoop pilot or something in the background, like leaning on the bike or something along those lines.
My brain's just gone down a strange road of thinking on it.
Shocker.
Because my first thought was Imperial Royal Guard could be fun.
Okay.
because you get to stand around, you get to hear all of the gossip coming between the Emperor and Vader,
could be cool.
and you don't actually have to do anything. So when it kicks off, he just asks you to leave the room.
That's true. There's an interesting job spec for them. I'd be interested to read the application form they signed.
Well, this is where I'm going. And then I started thinking about it, and then it occurred to me that people who are supposed to guard stuff in the Star Wars universe are incredibly bad at it. Like the scout troopers who are supposedly guarding the bunker and then just run around the corner or chasing after one rebel trooper, abandoning the bunker and their speeder bikes.
Yeah, or indeed just running off after a bear.
Or the guards who are supposed to be guarding the Millennium Falcon and then go up into the Falcon and get ambushed and attacked and impersonated by Luke and Han. Then we have the guard who is supposed to be guarding C-3PO and R2-D2 in the Death Star communications room and has C-3PO come up to him and say, "Is it all right if I leave?" And he says yes.
Yes, yeah. That's not the best. Again,
I don't think anyone. I don't know if the concept of guarding something actually exists in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I know what you mean. Actually, the more you describe it, I mean, the Praetorian Guard in Last Jedi, similarly, a bit reactive, aren't they? They're not proactive. They're not preventative in any way. They are very much. I can't believe, right? So I haven't got to this bit in the rewatch yet, but I can't. I find it incredibly difficult to believe that they're all watching this scene play out, and not one of them goes, Whoa, hang on. Whoa, what are you doing? Because they're all
in
kind
Phantom Menace, by the Naboo starfighter pilots, where Obi-Wan says, "I'll go free them," and Qui-Gon talks to a battle droid and just says, "I'm going to Coruscant." What then happens is the droid guarding them basically has the blue screen of death. Yeah.
It's just like...
Again, I'm going to put that down to poor guarding.
That seems fair, yeah. I mean, at the very least, their antivirus needs work.
Yeah. And that's got to be a concern.
That's a form of guarding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Again, it's supposed to be preventative, so... Yeah. This kind of thing I'm thinking.
I guess what we're saying is any guard work you can get...
It's nice work if you can get it.
It's sort of got to be pretty easy in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, it's nice work if you can get it, I think it's fair to say.
And come to think of it, Jabba says to Fortuna, "Don't let Luke Skywalker in." And what does he do?
Lets him in.
There you go. See, there's just poor guarding in Star Wars.
Is that kind of a lax door policy at Jabba's palace more than anything? I don't know. I'm asking. I'm not saying for sure. I'm asking.
But he's got Gamorrean guards and the Tattletale droid and Bib Fortuna ostensibly to stop anyone getting in. But within the first half hour, the entire cast of Empire Strikes Back has managed to make its way through the doors.
It is ostensible. This is true. Yeah. This is it. I'm still going to...
There's a market for a security firm, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Some sort of PMC. Yeah. They're going to be... they're going to clean up in that universe, I would say.
Yep.
I was thinking more about what I could go for, and I actually think the other possibility is one of the patrons of Canto Bight. Because actually, on a visual level, that scene is pretty spectacular.
It does look fun, doesn't it?
It does look fun. And it's, I find it a little bit of a... I have my issues with the scene generally, but it looks incredible. It looks like I think it looks like a fun place.
Whatever criticisms you can level at Last Jedi, I think it's visually striking from start to finish.
100%, yeah. And that's something I have found myself kind of constantly coming back to, is like, man, that shot looks really great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been doing that a lot as I've been watching.
Yeah, okay.
But there are things that have sort of, I'm not going to... We've done it plenty of times. My feelings on this film are well documented and numerous.
Yeah.
And nothing so far my mind has not been completely flipped on anything. So people can infer into that what they may. Yeah. But the visual stuff, Canto Bight has kind of struck in my mind as a really nice looking place. So maybe something like that. The only thing is, the other kind of question about it is, you'd end up underneath prosthesis or a costume, depending on if you're in if you're a stormtrooper on the Death Star, for example. Now, granted, you seem to be able to make convention bank for the rest of time, but I would want to be able to say, "There's me," and for people to go, "Oh yeah," as opposed to, "How can you tell?" Yeah, that's just me. I'm weird that way.
Just for once, you've got something over Daniel Craig.
Exactly. I'm weird that way, and he gets to be in all the Bond films, and I get confused with the bloke who writes them. That's what I get. I get a message from my mate Andy every time a new one comes out. I get a message from my mate Andy saying, "Well done on Bond." Thanks, mate. Nothing to do with me, but whatever.
What?
Yeah, there's one of the screenwriters is called Robert Wade.
Oh, okay. I thought he was the Dancing with the Stars guy.
No, not that guy. No, they're different.
You're a series of Rob Wades.
I know, right? I'm not actually. Turns out my name is not that unique. Who knew? But
anybody, the second most famous one still. So
I don't know if I am. I think I'm third.
Yeah,
I got more Twitter followers than Dancing with the Stars guy. I think, if I remember rightly.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but then I don't think he's used it in some years. So swings around about.
Yeah.
But I could always potentially try.
I'm literally only Bradley Harmer Barnes because we invented that surname. There's only 3 people in the world with it.
Yeah,
so
fair.
I am the most famous Brad Harmer Barnes, but also by default the least famous.
Yeah, I mean it's a mixed bag, isn't it? Really. I mean, there's something to be said for the solitude and the quiet life you're allowed to afford yourself, but at the same time,
I don't get people heckling me about Bond films.
Yeah, well,
apart from that guy who wanted me to do a cameo in one as a stormtrooper, but I think that's crossed wires.
I mean, you're a Sony property. What are you even doing?
Yeah,
what are you asking for? So I'm gonna stick to my original. Well, actually, I need to choose between 2. It's either going to be some sort of swoop bike rider in the background, leaning on their bike, looking all cool. Do you know what? I've been in the casino. Let's go for the swoop bike rider.
Yeah, swoop bikes are fun.
I've been cool looking, in quotes, in a casino already in my life a few times. Let's just go with the swoop bike rider instead.
Yeah, that's cool.
What about you?
I'm sticking with Royal Guard. I think it sounds the easiest gig.
All right.
All that happens is that you might get your head knocked into all by Yoda.
Are you the famous Bradley Hammer Barnes?
See, the other thing is that helmet that the Royal Guards have, there's no wasps getting in that.
There is definitely an upside in that regard. Mm-hmm. That seems totally fair to say.
Maybe you've got to double as a beekeeper, I don't know.
I don't know, maybe. I mean, it's all moulded plastic, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not very good for your carbon footprint, I would wager.
Well, it's not single use, is it?
I suppose not. Well, you say that, but then when I was watching Last Jedi today, there's that scene where BB-8 fires coins at the guard to distract him so the DJ can hit him with his boots. What good is that helmet? If a pair of boots, a pair of old boots, could knock him out, not just knock him down, knock him out cold.
Yeah, brilliant. But the thing about the Canterbury suit, our mutual friend Omeo pointed out, is that bit where the motion capture Mark Hamill is putting the coins into BB-8. Why does BB-8 can accept those coins?
Yeah.
Not only does BB-8 have a coin slot, but those specific coins manage to fit.
Yeah. He's got a universal adapter, I think is what it is.
Oh, okay.
He's like one of those money boxes, the ones that can take. They can not only take 20p's and 50s, but they can differentiate.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, I reckon.
I guess if any character can have a character power completely devoid of any explanation as to why a droid with his capacity would ever require or need it, then it's BB-8.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, history has proven this to be the case. So, Michael, there are our answers: a swoop bike rider for me and a Royal Guard for Brad. So, hopefully, you enjoy those.
Yeah.
So, our next message comes from Ian.
Hello, Ian. It's not the one from Fire When Ready, is it?
It's not the one from Fire When Ready, no.
Okay,
I did double check the surname, and it wasn't included in the way I do it is basically if the email doesn't include the surname, I just assume they don't want me to read it out, so I just go with the first name.
No, that's totally fair.
Well, I just thought people might be interested as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
They're not.
No, exactly. I barely am. So Ian writes, "Hello there.
You're right.
So I've been listening to your podcast for quite a while now. However, this is the first time that I've mailed in to share my thoughts. After listening to your last 2 podcasts, I've been thinking a lot about Dark Ray. In a recent podcast, you talked about the Ray scene being a vision. I think it's safe to say that most people thought the same thing after seeing this trailer. It was also interesting to hear you saying that you felt that the recent trailers have become a little lazy in the way that we're now looking at them for misdirection. As J.J. Abrams has always been good at preventing spoilers, I can't believe that he would present us with something so obvious. For the second Star Trek film, he straight out lied by saying that Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't Khan. Spoilers. To be fair, they've had years. But turned out that he was. I believe he's clever at misdirection. So much so that he's tricked us all by making us discuss ideas of visions and clones. First of all, I'm pretty sure this is not a vision. They knew that everybody would think that, especially the fans. It feels too obvious. I'd bet my Darth Sidious Hot Toys figure that it's not a vision. You were right, by the way. The Hot Poster did use a Hot Toys figure. They're expensive in the UK, but not as much overseas. I'm from the UK, but live in Japan, so I have a collection of over 20 Star Wars Hot Toys. That's pretty cool. You also talked about Rey being a possible clone. I don't think this is a bad idea, and it's still a possibility. This would explain why the cave wasn't able to show her parents. Either that or the cave was just showing her darkest fear, that she has no family. If she is a clone of some kind and was genetically created somehow, then she wouldn't have parents. Maybe it's possible that the Empire or somewhere else found a way to clone Force-sensitive creatures. In that way, there may be more of her. If she escaped or was saved, then maybe they made a new version of her. Another possibility would be that it's Rey's twin sister. We know that JJ likes to rehash old ideas or show history repeating itself. Luke and Leia were twins. Maybe Rey has one too. In the old novels, didn't Han and Leia have twins? One turned out good and the other turned to the dark side. However, my theory, or the theory I like the most at least, and this is actually Rey. This would be JJ tricking us all. We don't believe the simplest explanation, so we look for other answers. There have been theories going around that Snoke was Sidious. Also, some people believe that Palpatine or Sidious was Plagueis. I think this will turn out to be the truth. Many people wanted Snoke to be Plagueis. JJ knows this. We also know that Plagueis could manipulate midichlorians and cheat death. But we don't know how he could cheat death. We assume that he could regenerate or stop himself aging. But what if he cheats death by possessing other Force-sensitive life forms? Whether it's Plagueis or Sidious, I feel there's a good chance that they can exist within the dark side of the Force. You also mentioned the world between worlds, where they could also be. If Palpatine or Sidious could return as a Force ghost, maybe they could possess others. We've seen Sidious. We've seen the mustachioed bodybuilder from Family Guy. I say, Sidious. We have seen Sidious as a Force ghost manipulating the midichlorians in Shmi, creating Vader in the comics. I'm not sure whether this was the truth or just another vision. But if it did happen, why did Sidious do this? Why did he create Vader? To be an apprentice? Or to create a powerful life form born from the Force in which he could possess or steal his body? If he did it because he wanted a strong body, then after Vader was dismembered and burnt alive, I guess he was no longer a suitable candidate. Therefore, he had to create another. Going back to the possession of other life forms, it would have made sense for Plagueis to have taken over Palpatine, as he was a man of power and influence. Snoke came from nowhere, but maybe he too was already a person of power and influence, so a good person to possess to carry out the master plan. And now Snoke is gone, and the First Order are winning. It's time for Plagueis or Sidious to return using the body of the new life form created from the Force, Rey. She is the new Anakin / Vader. Kylo is just a pawn. We know he's not very powerful. Really? Okay. The prophecy says that someone born from the Force would bring balance. We thought it was Anakin, but maybe it's Rey. Maybe she'll become both dark and light. Or maybe the Emperor or Plagueis will become her and Kylo will have to save the day. Not a bad way to redeem himself. Finally, a little off topic, but I remember you talking about possibly showing Kylo false truths about Rey's parents. It sounded like you liked this idea. After the reveal that Snoke was the one connecting the two of them, I thought this was pretty clear. Snoke was manipulating them all along. He made Kylo see that... Sorry, I'll start again. I've just mangled that sentence. He made Kylo see that so that he could use it against Rey. We also know that Vader visited Kylo at some point before TFA, which makes no sense. Anakin turned back to the light. I also believe this was Snoke tricking Kylo. This supports the idea that it's all part of a plan. From Plagueis to Sidious to Snoke. They're all trying to fulfill a master plan. So wouldn't it be great if they were all the same person? Anyway, long email. Sorry. Let me finish by saying I love Talk Star Wars. Best Star Wars podcast out there. Keep up the great work. Keep up the great work, and may the Force be with you guys. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yes, I'll get my unpacking tool.
Yeah. JJ as master of... Here's the thing about JJ.
I don't know that saying he's not Khan when he is really a master of misdirection so much as it is bald-faced lying.
Yeah, but also... I think with all the love in the world to JJ, he's great at a lot of things. Ending things, not so much. He doesn't tend to do it himself. He tends to kind of pass off the baton. I mean, the most high-profile example is Lost, of an ending of something that he created, and that's not regarded fantastically well by fans.
I've never seen this, but I'll take your word for it.
The ending is, when I say not received fantastically well, it's somewhat of an understatement when it comes to Lost.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite widely derided.
Did they wake up and find out it was all a dream?
Kind of.
Okay, cool.
Yep. It's not quite as weird as Elsewhere, but very few things are. So the idea that it's not a vision, okay, possibly. The idea of another entity, of another Rey, the idea of her being one of a series of clones. I think we touched on that last week.
Yeah.
And I've seen it gain a little bit of traction in terms of fan theories and stuff. I've been trying my best to avoid, because obviously now, the speculation things are in full force, but also the leak stuff is doing the rounds a lot, and I'm not a fan of leaks. I think they actually, they ruin the films a bit. Personally, that's just me. I like to go in and be surprised by things.
That's fine.
Yeah, and bearing in mind they're going out of their way to put stuff in that is there to surprise us. It sort of feels like leaks are detrimental to that experience. But I know some people dig them, and as long as they're not intrusive and kind of finding their way into my feed without me wanting them, then I'm generally fine with I have no problem with their existence. I will say also that I'm a little bit jealous of the ability to collect Hot Toys. I personally haven't got the space to store Funko Pops, so I have some envy there. The one thing, there's two things I think. The only real things I disagree with in this long email. One is that it's actually Rey. It's not. I can't see it happening, and I don't see why people can.
Some people seem to want it.
It's sort of like my feelings on Reylo. It basically it's the feelings of an adult fan forgetting that the movies aren't for them. Like Kylo and like the whole Reylo thing strikes me as Kylo and Rey can have a relationship because it's more complicated than he's an abuser. To me, that seems like the kind of thing that a kid will balk at, and anything that a kid will balk at in a Star Wars movie is generally unlikely to happen. Because I don't know if you noticed, but in Last Jedi there are porgs everywhere. In that film, gratuitous porg action in some scenes where they're just non-stop, and is
that like red hot porg on porg action?
It's porg on porg. There's a where Chewie spit roasts one. Oh man, that was better than we realised even before we started. Fantastic.
Oh, you genius. You dare time code that?
No, not a chance. Not a chance. That's absolutely true. Anyway, these are movies for children, and these are movies for children and families to enjoy, right? They are not going to turn their marketing bonanza evil in the last film in a trilogy. Their window to do that was last film, and they didn't take it. That is all I'm going to say about that. And the other thing, if they go down the Anakin was never the chosen one path, I'm done. Because that's a George thing. And I've always maintained that the reason I will stick with Star Wars in the Disney era is because they respect the George things. If they start walking back the George things, I'm going to be miffed, and it's going to. That's the kind of thing that will just put me off, because at that point you're just like, no, you were just, I'm not a fan of rewriting all that history stuff. Yeah. Within, I accept that there's going to be something Palpatine. I still don't think it's going to be a physical, corporeal appearance, and I'm pretty resolute on that feeling. But the chosen one thing is sacred G canon. You don't mess with that, and it's also lazy. It's really lazy. Like no, she's the chosen one after all. It's like no, sorry, write your own thing. It was like you could do like Ian described, and have the clone thing. They've found a way to clone the Force sensitives. That works for me. That's enough for them to say, technology has advanced 30 years.
We can track through hyperspace now.
Yeah, exactly. This is it. That's new tech in the film. Like they mention it. And so they can do things like that. They can say, oh, well, they didn't have the technology then, but now they do. Maybe they get hold of some Camino and stuff, and the Empire gets hold of some Camino and cloning things and modify them. That's explicable. Like you can get around that by saying, look, technology has come a long way. What you can't do is say, no, George didn't know what he was talking about. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Having said that, there are things about Ian's ideas that I really like. Mm-hmm. One is the idea that the cave was showing her fears rather than answering questions. Mm-hmm. Because there may be further bits in the film that I've forgotten about, but I've just been watching Last Jedi today, and what she says is it was trying to when she's talking about she has the vision of the cave. It was trying to show me something. It doesn't. She doesn't say it had the answers. It was trying to show me something, and that could totally be a misdirect. Could be dark side energy. Could be, how weird would it have been if Luke was on the planet and Palpatine's dark essence was there all along?
Ooh,
cool, right?
Maybe it wasn't Luke. Maybe it was Palpatine all along.
I mean, that feels like a dartboard.
Weirder than clickbait or Reddit is doing.
No, absolutely not. But it does feel like the dartboard's been spun.
Yep, I've got my tennis ball lined up.
That's not how dartboard. Never mind.
That's what we did before. It was a tennis ball with a load of characters, a tennis ball serving machine with a load of characters' names written on it. That was how we deduced urges generating plots.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
There's a few episodes ago now. I don't expect you to remember.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm not that important to you.
One thing I did notice, and I think they could theoretically go down this route for the movie, it's a little bit of a weird, it's like a slightly deep cut, but during the vision that Rey has when she sat on Arcto on the cliff edge, and she's going through all the things about life and death and cold and warmth.
Goes into the David Attenborough bit. Yeah.
Goes into the David Attenborough bit. There's a bit where, so this is the bit where she starts seeing the dark cave and it starts calling to her. Right at the end, you look down the hole and then water just goes spiting up for no apparent reason. Yeah. Now they could, not saying they will, but they could take that and tie it into the fact that the Death Star stuff is allegedly underwater. That might work.
I wouldn't hate that.
No. As a tie-in goes, it could be...
It's perfectly cromulent, yeah.
And it was an interesting thing because otherwise, I don't see any reason to make the water appear apart from it's a cool transition shot. And that may be all it is. That's maybe all it was ever intended to be. But that works for me. Like as a, you know what? That was what the cave was trying to show her. She'll get answers in the water, something like that, but in a way that's phrased more elegantly and less clunkily than I just did. So aside from the two things that I highlighted, which is Rey as the chosen one, no,
I'm not a fan of that.
No, I say it's not even it's just not a thing. And if they make it a thing to try and get around the fact they've got maybe if they've written themselves into a corner and that's the way to get out of it. No, sorry, do better.
Yeah.
You have, you have a story group at your disposal. You have multi-billion-dollar movie industry. You can write a plot other than, oh no, it turns out her, not him.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound like I'm ragging on it excessively, but I'm very much of the opinion that they should continue to respect the legacy of George. There's certain things that will make me just switch off.
The Second Age TV series that Amazon's ostensibly doing isn't going to start steamrolling over Lord of the Rings.
Well, exactly. In the same way, it's about respecting and love for the source material and expanding. The Star Wars is such a massive universe that we didn't even need the old characters, and we could have told new stories without them. But the point, there's something to be said for the fan service to tie it all in, but that's one thing. Yeah. But you don't need it to tell new stories. No. You could have the further adventures of Broom Boy now, and nobody's going to care that he only has a bit part in episode 8. No. It doesn't matter. It's in the Star Wars universe. Who cares? Like, people get what it means. You don't believe us?
Go and look up the Wikipedia pages for some of the characters in Masters of Terraskazi.
Well, quite, and have a good laugh at some of their names and their pronunciations because they're hilarious.
Yeah.
I like the notion of Palpatine having Vader as a possessive, the idea of Palpatine being an essence rather than a physical being, or like Plagueis maybe being the sort of big bad all along is it's a little...
Kind of changes his name.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a strange one.
Wait a minute.
All right.
Doesn't that tie in kind of to the end of the Darth Bane trilogy?
Yeah, kind of.
So what if he's Bane?
That would be a deep cut, and the Bane trilogy is not canon anymore.
Well, they wouldn't have to say reveal he is Bane, but what that could mean is there's actually only ever been one Sith.
Ooh.
Who just passes his power along.
Yeah. And his name is Grumbly Barry.
Yeah. Danny Torrance.
Grumbly Barry.
Yeah, Grumbly Barry. Oh, we played Legion 2 days ago. My dad had a generic Imperial officer who renamed Agent Barry, so that's great. That's come back.
Nice. Yeah. So, yeah, I like the idea of Plagueis as the dark side essence as a character who then travels from vessel to vessel, and the notion of Vader as, the backup body until he gets maimed. And then Palpatine's like, well, forget it. I'll just get old then. Screw you. Can't let me have any fun.
Sidious, his staff turnover rate is actually quite poor.
In terms of like how often he goes through new stuff. In terms of
apprentices, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the best. It's not the best. What? Having said that, is it what? 3 and 18 years?
No, I guess that's not that bad. It just feels like a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. Actually, it's 3 and 28 years because you got Vader.
Yeah, Vader holds the position for a while.
He holds it for ages.
I suppose we don't really know how long he had Maul at the moment, do we?
No, I don't think it's been fully established.
At least 5 years, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Okay, well, maybe it's not that bad.
Dooku for a couple of years, and then Vader.
Wasn't long.
No.
I don't think. I'd be surprised if it was 10 years. I'd be surprised if it was 10.
Yeah, I think it's under 10. It's basically the duration of the Clone Wars and shortly before.
The Clone Wars is 3 years.
Yeah, shortly before the Clone Wars, and that's it.
Yeah, a couple of years before Clone Wars, maybe.
Yeah.
Call it 5. 5 to 10. That's
5 to 10 sounds about right. And then Vader for the rest.
Yeah.
Until now.
When you think about it, it's a hell of a long apprenticeship for him to be serving.
It is. You do feel like if you're Vader, you're just like, I mean, is there going to be an exam or something? Like I've pretty well studied up now. I think I'm good. It's like, well, no, you've forgotten all your paperwork.
Yeah.
Bureaucracy. Empire's undoing. Obs.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I say, the two things I've already highlighted, notwithstanding
how much he ostensibly hates Palpatine.
Yeah.
There's a hell of a lot of time to sit working underneath him.
Yeah, this is
without apparently having any sort of master plan until he discovers that Luke's a thing.
Yeah, indeed. So, yeah, the two things I've made, notwithstanding, there's nothing in Ian's email that jumps out at me as, oh, absolutely not. I like the notion of I don't hate the notion of the dark side entity sort of traveling from body to body. Whether that's, Plagueis trying his luck and then Palpatine manages to block him off and become the most powerful one, and then by virtue of that becomes the traveler.
Yep.
It does go a bit Dexter. That's the only thing. The dark passenger thing.
Or Fallen with Denzel Washington.
Yeah, that's a good movie though.
What a film!
It is
the '90s had some really good off-the-wall horror movies.
Off the wall, one shot, never tied into anything else ever again movies.
Yeah, Fallen was. If you've never seen Denzel Washington's Fallen, it's great. Look, it's the sort of thing that crops up on Netflix.
Not to be confused with Denzel Washington Has Fallen, which is just a video of him falling over. And go, damn it!
Yeah. I have one minor issue with.
Okay. Besides the ones I've already raised, I take it.
Yes, one minor issue with his pitch. At no point does any form of Skywalker do any form of rising.
Yes. Yeah, fair. I mean,
that's not saying he doesn't have a theory on that, but he doesn't touch on it in the email. So
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, maybe he has got a theory. Absence of proof is not proof of absence. But,
for sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff there I like, but no Skywalker in a film with Skywalker in the title. And when the film doesn't have Skywalker in the title, there's usually quite a lot of Skywalker in it. So I'm expecting double Skywalker. Yeah,
twice as much for your money. Yeah. More bang for your buck. As it were. Yeah.
I mean, how many Star Wars films don't have a Skywalker in? It's Solo.
I suppose Rogue One. Yeah,
no,
Rogue One
and
does.
Darth Vader's in it. Yeah.
Yeah, but also Leia as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking of Leia, but yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And, Krennic in my fanfic.
Yeah. It's totally something you would have done.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he did a strange Force connection to the Death Star or something.
Yeah, either that or my action figures way back when, because I would just not understand how narratives work. I was like 12, to be fair.
Make, he'd have some sort of force connection to it, and whenever the Death Star fired, it was actually his tantrum.
Yeah. Yeah. We call it a tantrum, but I think he's got some legitimate beef.
Oh, yeah,
I think his grievances are not entirely unfair, to be honest.
Yeah.
His general grievance.
There's a podcast title.
General grievance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a bad one, actually. I'm not... Every now and then I surprise myself with a half-decent name, but, you know, then I find out that I share it with Dancing with the Stars, so whatever.
Yeah.
So, Ian, thank you very much for your email. Don't ever apologise about the length. Oh, my.
No. Something you know all about, am I right?
Hey.
Yeah. It's funny because he won't shut up.
So, anyway, yeah. But, Ian, thank you very much for that. You know, what do you think of our thoughts? Like, in terms of, you know, are you happy with your wash in terms of our answers?
I agree with them.
Do you want to hear more depth? Do you have other questions? All these are things you can address by doing things. And
shouting at us.
You know exactly what things you can do because you did them to get this in. So,
yeah, exactly.
You figured this out. What's that now?
You seem really angry tonight.
I'm just fired up.
Okay, cool.
Like Vader on Mustafar. I'm fired up. Last email for this evening, it seems, comes from James. And James writes, just a few clarifications since I communicated poorly last time. The movies have made promises to the viewers. When these are usurped, they must be done well, otherwise the consumer feels cheated and or lied to. I think that many people who disliked The Last Jedi were leaning too heavily on these promises to be fulfilled, and they were either ignored entirely or blown past like Rey's parents. Kylo's character arc has been set up in a way which he wants to follow the dark side, and the conflict in him is feeling remorse or love or other lighter feelings. Rey's character arc has been set up such that she defies the dark no matter how difficult her life becomes. This was usurped in Last Jedi in the Dark Cave, and Kylo being redeemed would usurp his character arc as well. I'm not saying these must be followed. If they were flipped on their head, I would love it, so long as it was done in accordance with the story, not just thrown in because it would shock people. She did go looking for the dark because, as she said, it had answers. But I think she was supposed to have learned that lesson when Snoke revealed that he used that longing for information to trick her. Then Kylo tried to use it against her again, but she had learned. Even though it was painful, it could no longer control her. I wouldn't mind them finding a Sith holocron of Palpatine's, some automated system left over. Even some type of Sith poltergeist would be acceptable, just about anything besides bringing Palpatine back fully to life. It just feels like cheap, lazy storytelling. I love callbacks, Easter eggs, tie-ins, etc., but don't reuse an old villain no matter how good he was. I would even accept an army of Sith troopers following orders from a Palpatine holocron. I'm open to many different forms a story can take. I just hope for the quality that made me want to rewatch the OT hundreds of times. Now, what about the medal they showed Leia holding in the first teaser? Is it Han's? Luke's? Chewie's? I personally hope they discover it keeping parts of the Falcon together where they're trying to clean out a porg nest.
Oh, I know that.
In the D23 special, the old Star Destroyers look like they could actually be a forgotten cache from the Aftermath era, which the Rebels steal to use against the First Order. I could very easily see them having enough people but not enough ships. My only reaction to that on first glance was you could see them having enough people but not enough ships. Because I watched The Last Jedi and they had neither.
Yeah. But they did say the signal had been picked up, but you don't know that the people who received it necessarily have a navy. Yeah,
true, I suppose. So they could have the...
It could be the Cloud Riders for all we know.
For sure, yeah. And if that means we get some of that really cool soundtrack again, I'm happy with that. So good.
Imagine John Williams working with that.
Ghost in the Shell style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
Krennic.
Yeah.
Krennic. Any excuse to bring him up. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he's cool. So, yeah. First,
talk me through. What do you want me to chip in on?
We'll start with the first one. So, Kylo's character arc set up in a way that he wants to follow the dark side and he has conflict of remorse and love.
Yes.
All good with that?
Yeah, that's the plot of Force Awakens.
Fair. Rey's character arc has been set up such that she defies the dark no matter how difficult her life becomes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm less sure on this one.
Uh-huh.
If only because I don't necessarily feel that Rey encounters much in the way of hardship. She's had some that we've that's off screen. So and that's fair. Yeah. Grown up by herself, scavenged and all that. That's not so much what I mean.
That is, adversity.
That is adversity. My thing with it is and kind of has always been, I don't necessarily see that manifest itself on the screen. I'm not going to say everything comes easily to her in The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, but she doesn't seem to have too much trouble navigating the things that present themselves in front of her. Yeah. It's like, I was thinking about this more as I've been watching Last Jedi, I say for the first time in a while. And might do it again at some point soon with the mindset of, could you just remove the other characters and Rey could just sort this all out herself? In the proverbial sense. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's not literally, because she can't fly the Resistance around because she is not the size of a cruiser. She's just not, No,
we've come to accept that now.
No, she's got she's got herself in good shape for the movie, but there are limits to the human skeleton, and that's fair. And nobody should be expecting her to surpass those. Mm-hmm. Even though if anybody could, maybe Daisy Ridley could. Who knows?
Yep.
But
she does like lifting things.
She does seem to like the lift. Yeah, indeed. So in terms of her arc, I think I don't fall out with what James is saying. In terms of the general premise, I think he's right. My contention is purely that I think they could have done a better job of making that apparent. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's necessarily happened. There's a really good example of that, in fact. So he mentions it here. She did go looking for the dark because, as she said, it had answers. But I think she was supposed to have learned that lesson when Snoke revealed that he used that longing for information to trick her. Mm-hmm. They mention it once in passing and never touch on it again.
Yep.
They could, again, it's one of those things. I've talked about this many times with the sequel trilogy. There are so many little things, and Harry Potter movies had this as well. I remember back in the day. So many little things that were so easily fixed with one line of dialogue, or even an extension of an existing line. And the example I always use is in Prisoner of Azkaban is the Marauders map.
Yeah.
Because all you have to do to explain why Sirius and Remus Lupin can use the Marauders map is for them to say, the map never lies. How do you know? I made it. Mm-hmm. I made it to tell the truth, or something to that effect. It's an extension of what's already there.
Yep.
And I feel like there's ways to do that in The Last Jedi. Like they don't do it. She, like I say, they touch on the Snoke thing once, and then never again. And to me, it's like it just feels like a missed trick. Mm-hmm. Because, James is absolutely right. That should be enough to explain it. Like, well, she saw something, she thought she was going to get something out of it, and it turns out she got manipulated and duped, and now she's skeptical. Fair. Mm-hmm. I could get behind that as a reason to be skeptical of the dark side of the Force. Mm-hmm. It lies.
You do.
Yeah. And that's fair enough. And like I say, if that was the only explanation, I could get behind that as an explanation. But they don't even do that.
Yeah.
They play a lot on. It's hard to explain without. I don't want to sound like I'm just ragging on them constantly, because I don't mean to. But it sort of feels like the equivalent we talked about, I think either last week or the week before, about the kind of hubris of like, oh, it's the Star Wars thing. People will go and see it, or people will buy it. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, oh, well, it's a Star Wars. People will get that. It'll be obvious. Mm-hmm. And it's like a little bit of focus testing might show you that people don't necessarily pick up on that. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take, you can't rely as a filmmaker on the fact that people will see your film multiple times. Mm. Like it doesn't make sense to rely on that as like I can definitely not worry about this. It will stand up to it. It will make sense after repeat viewings.
Yeah.
Star Wars kind of abuses that more than any franchise recently that I can think of, in terms of that you go. I do think I've said this before. I think it's fair to say, even though I don't necessarily think it should be a thing, that you should really go and see these movies twice.
No.
Once to get the surprise, and then once the surprise has kind of washed over you, to go and watch it just with with that out of the way. Now, is it still good? Is it still good, or is the twist is the twist all that carries it?
Yeah,
like Usual Suspects is a good movie for me, even though I know the story and have done for let's say 15 years or whatever, however long it's been since I've seen it, because it's still a good movie, even if you know, and then you can go back in and actually watch and look for things.
Yeah,
with the Star Wars, they've had that to a degree. But I don't necessarily think that the surprises... I don't think they're designed, the surprises, to anchor the whole film. And that's good, because I don't think they're strong enough that they could anchor the whole film.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it than that, really. That's the best I've got in terms of explanation of the sort of the fundamental problems I have with... Like it's a problem more of modern movie things, is, they kind of have to go down the route of like, oh, we need this many views to make money, and it's like, I get it, but at the same time, you can't rely on the fans to prop it up for you. You have to appeal to a broader audience in order to make record-breaking numbers. Like, Endgame wouldn't have worked if it was such deep cuts of comic book lore that nobody could follow it unless they'd read amazing.
No, they did a very good job of that. Only making it related to movies. And to be honest, you didn't need to have seen all of the movies to follow Endgame.
No, because there's certain ones I haven't ever seen. 5
or 6, maybe.
Yeah, I'd never seen. I haven't seen Black Panther. I haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp.
See, Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'd say,
Captain Marvel
probably would have helped, but
yeah, I can see how that
obviously not to any great degree. No,
but I mean, not to say, and actually, to kind of make that point even stronger, I still enjoyed the Wakanda stuff in the in Infinity War and Endgame, even though I had no familiarity with the backstory and the universe and that world within worlds.
Yeah,
I didn't have to have seen Black Panther for that to make sense and for that for them to have an enjoyable part to play in the movies. And Captain Marvel's the same. I hadn't seen Captain Marvel, the standalone, but I knew enough about her to be able to make it work in my head.
She was a plot device to get Tony Stark back from space. That was literally all she did.
Yeah, pretty much. And then
that was Captain Marvel's part in the film.
There was a cool bit where she smashed through that ship, but you could have done that with Hulk.
I enjoyed the Captain Marvel movie because Krennic, but she wasn't the game-changing fanfare we were expecting her to be in Endgame.
No, that's fair. And say, she plays a role, but her role didn't hang on her being Captain Marvel.
No.
You could have had that with Hulk, or especially the smashing through things. It's clues in the name, right?
Yeah,
clues in the whole Hulk smash thing.
Exactly.
He's a fan of the Hulk. He's pro smash, let's say.
Yeah, but they didn't make it so you had to have read Planet Hulk.
Yeah,
in order to understand Endgame.
Exactly. It does probably explain. Like Planet Hulk's a good example. Planet Hulk explains where Hulk's been up until Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that stuff like that makes some sense, but it doesn't. Again, you can just enjoy the fact that he's in it. You don't have to ask too many questions. It doesn't really lose anything too much for that. But it's enriched by. We talked about it with Rogue One a lot.
Yeah.
And I know we keep coming back to that movie, but it's so good.
My only issue with Endgame was 50% of the population had been disappeared.
Yes.
Yeah, every time you saw the city, it was like 8 people lived there.
Yeah, that's the one thing I found about it. It was like, what, so you're telling me, did China just get off light? Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like Walking Dead levels of population.
I really enjoyed
that. That's not what 50% is.
I like the notion that, Thanos is like this, stereotypical Midwestern farmer, and he just takes out California.
Yeah.
Takes out all the big cities.
Yeah.
It's like, I can do without the Googles.
God. India's just totally wiped off the planet.
Yeah.
Everyone else okay? Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
I think he was a bit racist.
Thanos did do something wrong. You hear that, internet?
Yeah.
I mean, as if wiping out half the population of the world wasn't enough. And let's be like...
Props to the MCU. They've made me like some characters which I've never clicked with. in the comics, and Thanos is definitely one of them. I never liked Thanos until the movies.
They do a good job of making him believable as a villain.
Yeah, in the comics, I just find him I'm death, I'm a monster, I'm evil, I'm in love with death. But in the movie, he's actually gave him motivation that made a sense to him.
Yeah.
And same with Daredevil. I've never liked Daredevil until the Netflix series.
Yeah, that Netflix series is good. It's a strong series.
Yeah.
But so circling back to Star Wars, I say with Rogue One. So Rogue One, we're talking about Rogue One. So that's how we got to the subject of this. So Rogue One, the reason I keep coming back to it as an example of how to do this stuff well is that you don't need to have seen all the Rebels episodes for the certain character cameos to make sense.
Do you need to have seen any Star Wars movie before you see Rogue One? Could you see Rogue One as your first Star Wars movie?
I think you could.
I think you could.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that with that in mind, I think.
Yeah.
On the plus side, I get to watch Rogue One.
Krennic,
yeah, exactly, yeah. Some wall-to-wall Krennic love is always nice. But yeah, the thing for me is they need to be... How did we get here? I was talking about holding stuff back and not like relying too heavily on the repeat viewings. Now I'm trying to remember how I got to that point. It's gone. It doesn't matter.
Okay, nothing does.
No, it's. I was talking about plot twists and shocks and surprises and how
that's it.
Star Wars is pretty good. I think it's good at them in the sense that it doesn't. That's it. It's good at them in the sense that the films aren't made or broken by the twists. But there has been, I think, it's fair to say, in the new ones, more of an element of here's a twist.
Yeah,
there's a lot more of that in these ones.
Yes,
than there were in previous films, I would say.
I agree.
If you think about it, like, there's the one big twist is like Luke. No, I am your father. You don't really get a twist in A New Hope so much. I mean, maybe the fact that Ben Kenobi can stay with you after death, because I don't think.
Yeah, I guess so.
Again, do you know this is good, this chat, because it's given me a load of reasons to go and watch all these movies again.
At times.
Yeah, I mean, there's always there's nothing to be said. There's always something to be said for going and watching them again, but especially when you've got something specific to look for. What I'm going to look for is, does he ever mention before that point that you can come back, it allows you to live on after death? I don't think he does.
I don't think he does.
I think it's the first time when he goes, "Run, Luke, run," is the first time you see it. First time you've realised this has some sort of transcendental power beyond death.
Yes,
but I'd have to go back and watch it with that in mind. Empire, No, I Am Your Father. Jedi, nothing.
Leia is my sister.
Oh, Leia. Sorry, yeah, there is. I forget about that easily. But you'd think that would be the thing I'd remember, because it's the reason I find for the Machete Order being detrimental to a new fan, because you lose that reveal. And maybe it's not as impactful as the Vader one, but I still think it's worth.
It's not. It's just kind of. It's there, so I don't have to make and wrap up the love triangle.
Yeah, which is, there are worse reasons to have a reveal, but I know what you mean.
Would much have changed in the grand scheme of things if Luke and Leia hadn't have been related in the original version?
I think they would have. Maybe they felt like they had to explain why Leia just couldn't date both.
Yeah, maybe.
That's it.
I think it's put in there, like I say, to round back the story off.
Yeah,
it doesn't actually serve any grander purpose, does it?
No, indeed.
I suppose it's kind of touched on that they can force communicate in Empire.
Yes. Yeah, so certainly he's got some sort of affinity with her.
Yeah, but if they hadn't have done that, they could just have written that off as, he was a strong enough Jedi, he could have reached anyone, but Leia was his closest friend.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're BFFs. And, that's fine. And I think this is one of those things about why I'm a little bit more... I'm not as into the idea of Reylo as certainly some internet people who are really into it, and more power to them. But be nice. That's all. And I'll say that to anybody. Like, as in, I'm not saying that as like trying to single out people in the Raylo community. Just in general, just because somebody doesn't agree with you.
It's genuine.
Yeah, just be nice. But one of the reasons I don't swing for it is because aside from the whole, the sort of the complicated thing they have up until then, and the fact that that's lost on children because they haven't all watched 50 Shades. I'm sorry, they just haven't. In fact,
I've come to accept that now.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, and I think it's fair to say they haven't read them either. Because if Bootfairs are anything to go by, nobody has, or everybody has in one summer.
Have you read them?
I have never read them. I almost tried spoofing them at one point, but I figured it probably wouldn't be much good without me having read them, and I wasn't willing to do that for my art.
I read the Twilight Saga, and that was enough.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I've watched the last movie of the Twilight Saga, and that was so bad, it spoiled the idea of me ever taking any interest in that franchise ever, because it's just, the last movie is god-awful. One of the worst movies I've seen.
It is not the worst book I've ever read, but that's only because I've read Mein Kampf.
That is fair, he says, realising, should he be acknowledging that as fair? I don't know. But yeah, the one of the reasons I can't swing with Raylo is because I can deal with the fact that a female character and a male character don't have to be together, and that's fine. Like, Rogue One ended with that. Like, you sort of felt like they could have got together and it would have been fine, but they didn't, and that was also fine.
Fine, yeah. Okay.
But also, they've been through all this stuff together.
Hinted at was fair.
Well, it's kind of like they've developed they have a complicated relationship, but not to the degree of one. It's
not romantic at any point, though.
No, but it's kind of they share this sort of this traumatic experience, and they they have some common ground, and the
hug was enough.
Yeah, and the hug is more than adequate for the movie to tell the story it needs to tell.
Yeah,
and I think it's perfectly adequate for Rey and Kylo that it's actually perfectly adequate for them to be friends. But I think there's still going to be that whole, but, for the same reason, I don't think she'd ever be like, oh, Snoke, hello. Because the whole torture thing is quite important, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of torture in Star Wars.
I say this is not an E.L. James world where that sort of thing is like, oh, it's all in good fun. No, it's not.
There's a lot of torture in Star Wars in general for a kids' fantasy series.
Yeah, I suppose so. But I mean, a lot of it's implied and off screen, isn't it? Like Han's torturing Empire is off screen. It's just you see him going towards the orange things, and then he just screams in pain from the other room.
Yeah,
so and kids can just not worry about that.
I guess should EV99, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But that's a robot, so it doesn't it's not that it doesn't count.
All right, then.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't count, but it's a little bit. It's a little bit less. Give it a few years, that'll probably be an accusation levied at anyway. Current year, folks. Who wouldn't have it? Who'd have it any other way?
Where are we up to on this email? I've lost track.
We've been through the whole thing. I'm just we're just talking about it now.
What was a bit that stuck out to me?
I don't know.
Don't reuse an old villain, no matter how good he was. My advice to you is do not read comics.
Ah, okay. Is there a lot of that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, DC and Marvel have been reusing the same bad guys since the 1960s.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a different beast.
Yeah, it's a different medium.
Yeah, it's a different beast in many ways.
Yeah.
I do somewhat sympathise with that point of view. Like, if we can do it without reusing people, even like you say, you can totally have a credible threat presented by Palpatine without him being physically represented on screen.
Yeah. And through this show, some of the emails we've had, some general internet browsing and clickbait savouring I've been doing, I've softened on Palpatine possibly being in the movie because I've seen a few fan theories where like we've had before, we've kind of sat there and gone, yeah, that does actually work.
Well, the one about the... man, was it James? Actually, now I think about it, who was talking about the world between worlds as a escape route, basically.
Yeah, there's been a few theories I've read where I have softened on the idea of them using Palpatine for big bad in it. It won't ruin it for me either way. Now, I think as long as it's done well, as long as it's not just turns out I wasn't dead, then
psych.
yeah.
Lol. That work. Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't work for me. The Palpatine lolling in general. Palpatine laughing, sure, it's creepy as all hell and it's amazing. Palpatine lolling.
He's like 36 in Return of the Jedi.
Wow. It's just a testament to how well they're, whatever money they paid the makeup and costume people, it was not enough. Yeah. But yeah, it's.
I still think the best age in makeup is in The Exorcist because Max von Sydow wasn't an especially famous actor at the time. A lot of people just assumed he was that old.
Yeah.
And actually, how he looks in The Exorcist is how he looks now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's always impressive to see the sort of the aging process in special effects, and then when you see them age that way, you're like, man, they did a good job.
Yeah, totally.
They really did a good job. Like, I want to see, like, if they ever do. Who have they done? Have they done any digital aging in the Marvel and stuff? Because they've done obviously digital. There you go. They've done digital youthening with
and Haley Atwell as well.
Ah, yes, yeah. So they've done digital youthening with like Robert Downey Jr. and Kurt Russell. Sorry, it's Kurt Russell. Isn't it? Ego.
Kurt Russell and
Jeff Bridges.
It's Hank Pym. It's either Michael Douglas or Martin Sheen. I find
Michael
completely
Douglas,
interchangeable.
Yeah,
he was a younger version of him in Endgame.
Yes, that's right. And also, didn't I think they put him in Ant-Man briefly as well? Didn't they at the beginning?
Yes, first Ant-Man he was in. Yeah.
But yeah, they obviously can do that stuff, and obviously they've done the digital Tarkin from scratch, which from Guy Henry's mocap, which is never ceases to amaze me when it works because it's so good, it's so well done.
Am I right in thinking they used a scan from Top Secret for his face model?
Really?
Because he's in. Have you seen Top Secret?
The Val Kilmer movie, right?
Yeah. Peter Cushing has one scene.
Okay.
And if anyone hasn't seen it, it's the same guys who did Airplane and Naked Gun, so it's that kind of sense of humour. Zucker and Abrams.
Zucker and Abrams, that's the ones.
Yeah. The first time you see Peter Cushing in Top Secret, he's got a huge magnifying glass up against his eye. He takes a magnifying glass away and he's got one huge eye.
Yeah.
That's a visual gag. But it's Peter Cushing. They had to get that prosthetic made, they had to take a mould of his face, and when they went round to try and get a render of Peter Cushing's face, it turned out someone still had that mould of Peter Cushing's face.
Wow, that's really cool. I mean, I love that movie. I like Top Secret anyway.
Top Secret, it's not in the same league as Airplane and Naked Gun, but it's a fun one.
Of course, it's the same as Dracula Dead and Loving It. It's not in the same league, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think Top Secret's weakness is choosing to spoof Elvis movies is rather a niche one to go for.
Yes, that's true. But I think they do a good job by certainly do a good job with the young Elvis. Do a good job with young Elvis having Val Kilmer in the mix. That's a really good pick.
Yeah,
really good pick.
I love when they find the woman's missing husband or boyfriend, and he hasn't aged at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what
a great movie. I need to watch that again at some point.
Yeah. Man, I have a feeling it's on either Netflix or Prime.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it was.
Most things are.
It's going to be on one of those, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. How do we get? So let's get back to Star Wars. Hang on. So.
Spaceballs. Yeah.
Spaceballs. Oh yeah. So the last bit was the about the medal. Whose medal do you think it is? You got any thoughts?
I hadn't ever really thought about it, but yeah, it's got to be Luke's or Han's, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it could be.
Chewie didn't get one.
No.
Yeah, we don't see it anywhere else, and it's not like they're going to introduce it at the very last moment. Oh yeah, this was a participation ribbon they gave to anyone after they flew their first mission for the Rebel Alliance.
No,
they're going to keep it significant to either Luke or Han.
Yeah.
I mean, either of them could be in the Falcon in theory.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it makes the most sense for Han's to be in the Falcon.
Where would Luke's be?
I've always kind of, I mean, the comics, I guess, kind of touch on this a bit more. Echo Base? I guess. I don't know.
Left in a footlocker or an Echo Base.
I'm sort of thinking that, Luke would have stuck with the Rebel Alliance for a little longer because Han was about to leave straight away. And then I know he stuck around in a broad sense, and obviously he's in the comics and stuff. But I always kind of imagined that Luke's got nowhere else to go ultimately, whereas Han's got a ship and he's got, he does have a job.
Yeah.
So he's obviously got to work out. There's notice to sort out, and he's got to sort out his unused holiday.
I think he's self-employed, isn't he?
I suppose so. I don't know.
He's a freelancer, surely.
They never really delve into the arrangements with the Hut Cartel in terms of...
I think if he was on the Hut Cartel payroll, he definitely got given his marching orders before A New Hope.
I think that's fair to say.
It's one thing to have a disciplinary, it's another to be fired, it's another to have a bounty put on you.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that is true. But I've
never gone that far in my own career. No,
I think it's fair to say I don't know, because on the one hand, by the time New Hope finishes, he's still on Jabba's payroll, but there's no, he's negotiated a particularly rough deal to try and get himself buy himself some more time. By the time Empire Strikes Back starts, he's on the run from Jabba completely. So I feel like he would go, he was, like I say, he had the plan to go and pay off his debts, and that was his sort of plan before he then comes back and helps during the trench run. His plan is to go and pay off his debts. I don't know, I sort of feel like he'd sort that out. If he didn't sort that out immediately afterwards, that's a bit daft, isn't it? Bit of poor planning on his part. No wonder Jabba's annoyed. I'd be annoyed.
I'd be annoyed, yeah.
Yeah, to be honest. I'd be, you know who I'd be? Or what I'd be?
Who would you be? What would you be?
Suspicious.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe that's a way to work him in.
The Hut thickens. I like it.
Yeah. Maybe that's the way to work him into the story is,
yeah.
I've farmed out your case to one of my surrogates, one of my top generals, Suspicious the Hut. I wonder why you did that.
Yeah. Pourquoi?
And the D-23, the idea of the Star Destroyers being the cache from Aftermath.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's basically Katana Fleet by that point.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, I'm more of the opinion that that's going to be a threat rather than, even if it's like the Katana Fleet, in so much as they're racing the First Order to get them. Something like that might work. I guess.
Yeah, I think if manpower is a problem for the Resistance, which as we established is 8 people, some foxes and a porg.
Yes.
Then I just feel like Star Destroyers require quite a lot of crew.
I would say even as a skeleton crew, they would be hefty in terms of manpower.
Yeah.
Because wasn't the whole thing, like the Katana Fleet, to go back to that example, the whole thing with them was like they could only get away with a certain number because they physically didn't have the manpower to crew them up more than just to get the engines running and to get them going. But the whole threat was, they can have they can have these staffed up fully in a matter of months.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas it would take us years. It's like, yeah, that's fair.
I know for Firing Ready, when we have a Super Star Destroyer, I looked up what the crew required to run the Super Star Destroyer was. I was unable to find anything more specific than thousands.
Yeah, lots.
Plus stormtroopers, plus TIE fighter pilots, plus 80 crew.
Yeah, I believe the official book of ships describes it as effing millions.
Yeah.
But I've always wondered about the officiality of my version.
I want Star Wars characters talking like this.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
I know what you mean. But I'm being inclined to think that these Star Destroyers are inert in space. They're powered off and they're unmanned, and the whole.
Yeah.
I like the notion of there being one thing I'm still conflicted about from Last Jedi in comparison is this idea of like the chase that's going on throughout the whole film, which I always found a bit strange and still do. The whole idea of like, we care about fuel again now, and that now, and then also that they're all sort of hovering on the edge, and it doesn't really feel. I don't know. It doesn't quite work for me, and I'm not sure what it is about it that doesn't quite work, but it just doesn't. And I could sort of more go for a race against time First Order's got the manpower, but we've got some other ace in the hole like Lando's, Lando's contacts or anything like that. Or maybe they just get a head start on knowing about the Star Destroyers in the first place.
Yeah.
And then it's like the First Order are playing catch up, but then they've got the manpower to sort of make it work. So that's where the threat comes from.
Why do First Order care about 100 Star Destroyers?
Maybe it's just that it's not so much that they want them; it's just they don't want the Resistance to have them.
Okay, yeah,
I think that'd be sufficient. Yeah. Plus, also there may be, there could be. Again, we're talking about tech evolving. They could have slave circuits, and you only need one Star Destroyer to command the lot.
And then you could just crash it at hyperspeed forever it was you wanted to fight.
Totally. And if we're talking about it as a possibility that's mass related, that would certainly qualify.
Yeah.
A series of large Star Destroyers would certainly qualify as a thing with mass.
Yep.
No argument there whatsoever as far as I'm concerned.
Kind of want there to be a hold-up manoeuvre in 9.
Just as a thing, it's like everybody does it now.
I just want to see them kind of commit to this. As a thing you can do.
Yeah. The idea of it's just the First Order just comes at them and they just keep firing ships through ships.
Yeah.
It's like, I got it. I'll take care of it. That'd be kind of funny, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, and then it turns out that Snoke is Sebulba.
They don't make spoofs anymore, do they? Not like they used to.
No, it's been a fair old... No, I thought it was a lot. If we ignore the X movie...
Oh, yeah, they were dire.
Series. Yeah, well, Scary Movie was fine, but all the ones after that were very cheap cash-ins.
Yeah, superhero movie was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing I've always found of them is there's a finite number of movies to spoof.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, not so much is that there's only so many movies in the world, because that's a weird thing to say, and I didn't say it. Certainly didn't mean it. What I mean more is the reason I like Scary Movie and superhero movie is because the thread that runs through the whole film is one spoof, and then they do references to other movies inside it.
Yeah.
The other movies, like your disaster movies and your date movies, just spoofed everything relentlessly, but didn't have any coherent narrative of their own.
Mm-hmm.
So they just seemed like they would be, cheap.
The last one I saw, because I reviewed it for E14, was called Vampires Suck, which was a spoof of Twilight. There is a Star Wars link because Matt Lanter is in it, who plays Anakin in Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
And that was. I remember it being fine. I mean, I've not gone back to watch it a second time, but I remember enjoying it. But that's nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean that's a while. I'm trying to think. Yeah. There really aren't that many, I don't think, anymore.
No.
I think maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just one of those genres that's just had its day, or maybe people are wary of like spoofing the old stuff, and they don't.
Maybe films don't have enough. I think it's a combination of kind of postmodernism stuff. There's so much kind of tongue-in-cheek, goofy action movies. No action movies take themselves that seriously anymore.
No. Because even something like The Expendables are very much like played for laughs.
Yeah, or Olympus Has Fallen, all this kind of stuff, which would have been spoofed 20 years ago, is kind of tongue-in-cheek now. I can't think what the last one, but then conversely, you're not going to get an Abrams type spoof of something like Zero Dark 30 either.
No, it's true, because that would be a weird cut anyway.
Yeah, Mel Brooks is the Hurt Locker. It's just not going to happen.
I would still watch that, though. He
kept threatening to do a new Spaceballs.
Yes.
And Schwartz Awakens, and I kind of want him to.
I kind of do. I'm very conflicted on that.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, if anybody can come back after that long away and make it work, it's Mel Brooks, but at the same time it's a long time ago, and I don't think you could even make Spaceballs now. Like, when certainly, I mean, some of his other spoofs are obviously much less they've dated far less kindly in terms of the sensibilities of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't find it offensive, but I think that's just going to take us down a rabbit hole that's not really in keeping for show.
Sure,
but I get what you mean. Certainly the humour that was used would not be used today, is fair to say.
Exactly, yeah.
The Spaceballs is more of a direct spoof. There's nothing really touchy in Spaceballs.
No, but again, it's like the central theme is it's a spoof of Star Wars, and then they make references to Alien and other movies while they're going along.
Mel Brooks.
And I think spoofs are better when they do that. They have one central film that they lampoon, and then they make references to other things.
Yeah.
The Family Guy Star Wars trilogy does the same thing. They have the film they're referencing as the main theme, and then they do other stuff inside that.
I might revisit them because I haven't seen them since they first came out.
I'm actually I think I'm in the minority on this, but I think the Jedi one is best.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. I think it's just, I really love...
Maybe we should do a commentary.
I really love the bit where they are just nodding at each other for about 3 minutes.
It's just a Caddyshack splice.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. It's so... The first time I watched it, I remember crying. And normally, normally with Family Guy, I have a rule of 3, where after 3 goes, it just isn't funny anymore.
Yeah.
But with that one, it just kept me going because they changed it up ever so slightly every time.
Yeah.
And it would just kept me going. Like you say, then they just spliced Caddyshack in.
Yeah. I think a bit ago, it was... I love 4-4 stuff anyway, but the one, it was a 4-4 crack, but it was just so throwaway and so sardonic. Was in the Empire Strikes Back one where he just goes, "Oh, the chicken's Boba Fett." And it was just so wonderful.
Yeah. But they also found a way to...
You knew we were going to do it.
Yeah.
It's just so brilliant.
Yeah. They also worked Tom Selleck into that episode, so I was happy with that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. He just turns up in real life. Just, yeah. As Luke tries to contact him before he contacts Leia. And Tom Selleck just sat there and just goes back to his book. Or magazine, I forget. He's reading something anyway.
Yeah. I still think the Rock's cameo in Family Guy is the best thing they've ever done.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's the fact he looks confused at the end of it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. He just looks like, I think I've done what they asked me to do. I'm just going to sit here now.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I mean, I love The Rock anyway, but especially that. Anyway, listeners, if you're still with us, well, I think there will be. Because how else are they going to know where to write?
Well, do they care?
I think they care.
I think they care. You do, don't you guys? You need us.
Prove me right that you care, listeners. Podcast at emotionally14.com.
Don't grab me right. That's not the way to run a show.
Podcast at emotionally14.
Yeah.
That's just... No, I'm good. Podcast at emotionally14.com is where you can write your listener questions, comments, and feedback to the show. We read everything we get. Obviously, I have to bleep stuff, so if be wary of sending me any naughty bits. Or just don't expect them to be read out verbatim. That's all. Yeah, I think that's much to ask. But you can also interact with Talk Star Wars by tweeting at Talk Star Wars. You can also go join Facebook page, Facebook group. Yes, I feel like there's group. So it's Facebook page, Talk Star Wars, and Emotionally 14, where this exists as its primary home now. It's here now. How are you? And so, emotionally14.com is the website that produces and publishes Talk Star Wars now. And obviously the listeners like Michael, who've going back and forwards, are no doubt hearing some differences in the old stuff versus the new stuff. They're both great in their own ways. And, it would have been fraudulent of me to try and do it exactly the same. It would have just been hollow. So I didn't, and I think it's better off. The world is better off for me having done that. So emotionally14.com, podcast at emotionally14.com to write us in. Twitter at Talk Star Wars or at Emotionally14, Facebook Emotionally14 or Talk Star Wars. You can, if you wish, and you don't want to subscribe to a podcast, but you just want to listen to it, you can go to talkstarwars.co.uk, and that just takes you straight to a podcast player, and you can just play it in the browser right there.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Genius.
I know,
magic.
Right?
Witchcraft.
Yeah. It's technology we take for granted, isn't it?
Comes from space.
Indeed. And emotionally14.com on a Monday. You can also find the show there. You can also, if you want to get it a little bit earlier, which you might want to do, because you're only human, you can visit patreon.com/talkstarwars and give as little as $1 a month or whatever you care to donate. And you can get an ad-free version of the show, which drops a couple of days earlier. I think that's a good deal.
I think it's a deal.
Yeah. And also when we do, everybody's a little bit chaotic at the moment for the side shows like comics and roundtables, but we do them. And when we do them, the patrons get those early too.
Bargain.
So, Brad.
Yes.
Social media.
Yes.
You've got some.
Sometimes, yes.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. If you can't get enough of me talking Star Wars and want to see me firing when ready, then the best way to do that is to check out Fire When Ready Adventures in Star Wars Tabletop Gaming, which is our Star Wars Tabletop Gaming show on emotionally14.com. The easiest way to watch that is also through Emotionally14's YouTube channel. I'm sure you all work out how to do that. You're all grown-ups. If you want to be my friend on Facebook, then you can add me on facebook.com/Brad Harmer Barnes. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, or Instagram, to be fair, you can do so at RealBradHB. And if you want to help me keep the lights on, then you can buy my books at Audible and Amazon.
Yes, you can. And you can do so on emotionally14.com on a Monday. Underneath Talk Star Wars episode player, there is a little link where you can go to Amazon. You can buy Brad's books. And I've seen evidence to suggest that people are following those Amazon links. So hopefully you might be seeing something out of that.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, it's cool. So I can be found on Twitter and Instagram at RobWadeVision. And if you're talking to Emotionally14 or Talk Star Wars on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, then you're generally most likely talking to me. YouTube, it could be either one of us. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. I tend to sign off if it's me.
Oh, fair enough. That's a good way of doing it. I think I should keep that going as well if I'm not already doing it.
Have you got any books you want to plug?
I can plug my book.
I think you should. I plug it every week.
Yeah, I wrote a book last year, in fact.
Has it got a shark in it?
No.
That's where you're going, Rob?
It's non-fiction, so it's trickier to work that in. But yeah, it's a book called Assorted Thoughts on Podcasting, and it's just a bunch of kind of anecdotal stories and bits and pieces and examples of things I wish I'd known and mistakes I made that I'd like to steer people away from making themselves. And it's less of if you're going into it looking for a technical guide, you're not going to find anything for you there. It is more of a thought exercise that you can use to.
I enjoyed it.
If you're considering, thank you, I appreciate it. And Neil was a fan as well, so that was good.
Yeah, needed more sharks.
And it was nice. Yeah, I did think as I was sitting there doing the second edit, I was sitting there going, "Nah, do you know what?
Yeah,
marine mammals." Is the quota is low on this one, but then I thought, am I just adding them because it's like for shark's sake?
Am I just being woke? Yeah,
shark woke on Discovery. But yeah, one of the things that's most gratifying about it is that everybody, it hasn't sold that many copies, but everybody I've spoken to who's read it has enjoyed it. So that's a nice, it's the best review I can. I can give the best review I've had of it is when people say it really helped me, and that's a lovely feeling. So if you're an aspiring podcaster and you want to be like me, rethink your life and do something else. But if you are really dead set on it, Assorted Thoughts on Podcasting is a collection of the bits and pieces I wish I'd known when I started, and the stuff I wish I'd thought about before I got going. So
if you're looking for a way to ruin your health and life, why not become Enthusiast Press?
Do you find yourself sitting there thinking, I just have too much time and money?
Yeah.
That must be nice. Do
you find yourself thinking, maybe I need to do another YouTube show to make up for all the stuff I'm not already doing?
Yeah.
Join Enthusiast Press.
Yeah. Do you sit there and think, this is rubbish. Everything I do feels like enough.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm going to die young.
Yeah. I mean, I'm tall, so I was already rolling that dice.
Oh man, really? I'm not that short.
Yeah, I mean, tall
Except
people.
In my circle of friends.
Tall people. I mean, I look at the Big Show as like a good example of how I'm still in there.
Yeah, that's fine.
He weighs more than me. He's taller. He's in arguably significantly better shape, which is fair. But at the same time, I walk a lot, so whatevs.
Yeah.
But yeah. Assorted Thoughts on Podcasting is available exclusively on Amazon. I keep toying with the idea of doing an audio book, but there's a lot of rules about the submission guidelines that baffle me a bit. And so
it's just about audio quality.
It's to do with like the settings and stuff. A lot of the numbers they require is sort of like they're not in terms I understand. But I'm sure if somebody were to say, "Oh, it's like this," I'd go, "Oh, I see."
Not my field, I'm afraid.
No, I've got a name in my head of somebody I can harass gently.
Someone who's worked in live music and podcasts and comedy and stuff for a number of years. I have a disturbing lack of knowledge about sound production.
Well, fair enough. So,
if someone's with a band, it's like, can you just do it so the thing sound good?
Yeah, can you make the thing sound like a thing?
Have you got one of those magic boxes I can plug into?
Have you got one of those magic soul boxes to take memories of this evening in visual form?
We should buy one of these. If you say we need one of those, and yes, we should definitely buy one of those, fellas. I was just writing checks. That's all. Just keep going. Just make it sound good.
Make good sound. Go.
Totally clueless for this stuff.
Yeah.
And I have a music tech A level as well, but it's only a D, so who cares?
Nah, fair. You haven't even got A, B, C, E, F, and G to go with it.
No, I've got a D. It basically means I can plug a stereo together.
Yeah, fair. So I would be remiss if
Remember stereos, kids?
Yeah. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network, and this is not the moment to sign off, so don't even try it. So, in addition to Talk Star Wars, we are joined by the Tumbling Saber, Generation X-Wing,
Generational,
Nerd Room,
Roomy,
Rogue Squadron,
Squads,
San Diego Sabres,
Sabry,
Retro Inc.,
Inky,
and Sandcrawler Cast.
No, I've got nothing.
Anecdotes like that get everywhere.
Yeah.
8 wonderful outlets with fantastic shows, some of them more than one, which is mad.
Enthusiast Press, mate. We just keep going until we die.
This is it.
Yeah.
Just
We're like a Duracell bunny of sadness.
Oh, man. It's true. Anyway, StarWarsCommonwealth.com and Star Wars Commonwealth on Facebook and so on, if you want to connect and take your first steps into a larger world. As always, thank you very much for listening to episode 184 of Talk Star Wars from Emotionally14.com. Until next week, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and as always, may the Force be with you.